Get him now.
No.
Take my bike.
Just presidency.
Well, if we get 2 more people, we'll have our quorum. Otherwise, we'll just chat.
Chatting is good too.
Chatting's good. I have questions for the committee.
Why don't we start our chat?
We have questions for you, Alstead. Barbara, at any point you can think about being an alternate. Try and find these.
Might as well, looks like I'm gonna be here.
I'm just saying.
I'm not going anywhere.
The invite is open. We're an exclusive group. Not everybody gets asked.
I'm Marge's tag along.
Like you guys have been really busy. Does anybody thank you for this effort?
We thank each other.
Yeah, thank each other, and
That's probably
Other-
not good enough.
other folks have. Yeah,
Good.
after the last town meeting, and all there were a number of folks who approached several of us and said, "Glad for you folks doing what you're doing." There probably were some who had other things to say.
But they didn't say them to us, so.
So,
Yeah.
So,
The negative comment happens in town and no one hears it.
Right.
Did it really fall?
So, welcome our visitors, Michael, Barb, Joel. And as I've mentioned in the email, Joel will be sitting with us to represent our communications to the select board.
forever. Or until you fire me.
Okay.
Really? Chris is not coming back?
He's busy right
I
now.
don't speak for Chris, but this is a permanent assignment.
Okay.
Really?
As far as he and I were discussing briefly last night.
Well,
We'll see how it goes. I think it might make more sense for you people to have all 3 of those perspectives from time to time. But I absolutely want to support your needs for information and that sort of that bidirectional communication that Chris is pretty good at. So I don't care how it gets done. It needs to be made.
well, I'm glad you're here.
So far, I am.
We'll try to keep it that way all evening long. Nick has not got your email address, Marge, so you're not on the Google group.
I get everything. Yeah, I think
Did
I
you
get
get
it.
another email?
Okay.
She gave her address to me, and I believe that I had it.
You're not a problem solver.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
You get a zillion of them today.
So we'll let
Did you
Nick
get
know.
a zillion of them today?
From
Thank
me?
you.
You got the You got the reminder. You got the reminder that we're meeting.
Oh, yes, I got the reminder and 2 from Glenn, one because he had the wrong date, and then saying he didn't have, you know.
Okay.
So I did everything.
Good, well then we won't worry about that. That's taken care of, thank you.
Check.
We will go over this agenda even though we can't take any official action on anything. Not having our quorum, is there anything that you would like to add to it or change? We can look at the agenda.
I was wondering whether we should make it part of our business to do the line-by-line review of the expenditure report. I mean, I know that we've been wondering why the select board hasn't done that, and, you know, maybe it's better that we do it.
Just give them questions.
And just, you know,
I guarantee it'll generate questions.
We,
Well-
can we put that in our new business section?
I don't know, I mean, it will take some time, so,
I know, that's why we emailed whenever it was, my suggestion of picking the first, second, third, fourth, and just doing it, and
at the
You know,
select board meeting.
yes, but if we have someone here, me and Joel, we can do it with him, and he can relay our questions. Don't you think?
Give that line.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I think we have to march through the subcommittee reports and so forth more quickly than we have been doing, but.
I think we can march through the selectmen's stuff.
Especially this week.
Well, no, I mean, we don't need to know every little Tom, Dick, and Harry thing that happened, could watch on Tuesday night or show up.
I mean, it would give us that, an independent view of the budget. I mean, I think Glenn has it because he creates a report every week or every week. But we don't have that conversation
No.
here, and maybe that would, certainly it would make me feel like I know more about what's going on. Because currently, right now, I feel like, I don't have a handle.
Shall we list that as new business then, and sure we take it up?
Okay.
Since Carol, our timekeeper, is not here, is there someone else who would cover for that job? Fine. I'm gonna have to see you.
Especially that. Can't get out there.
I'm behind Glenn there. Okay,
Second name, Glenn.
select board report. There wasn't much happened Tuesday because it was a very short meeting. There was a very important mention of concern about the drug addiction problem and a brief consideration that maybe we should have a town task force, and that might or might not impact the budget in some ways, but it's something that
This has
Some of
to
those-
do what?
Well, that was the problem with that meeting.
Don't do drugs, just say no.
Well, I was not as nice as I should be and can be. And it's because I'm a little frustrated when I find myself in a meeting in a room full of people who are really wound up about something, but they got no ideas. In this case, I'm sympathetic because I got no ideas about how to keep people from. Let's just make it as small as we can. How do we keep people from not doing heroin in our town? I don't care what it about. That meeting had nowhere to go because there's no one can point to a town that's doing it right. No one can point to a therapy that has a success rate of over 30%. Nobody can credibly argue that law enforcement has a grip on the problem anywhere in America, not just in Alstead.
Are we,
Today, I actually heard the governor was talking about looking into prescription drugs and maybe limiting, like a 5-day supply instead of someone giving them a 30-day supply. But this is some of the stuff that the governor, that I heard today on the news that they're starting to look into. But, I mean, everybody's just kind of searching for an idea.
are our heroin addict numbers, or however this is tracked, disproportionate to the rest of the world?
Not according to that guy that we imported from the county who runs the.
So we're all about the same?
So, is there recent data about what's happening in Alstead that's causing this concern, or why is this?
No, that meeting was remarkably fact-free.
Oh, okay.
So
And
is
that's
it
why,
true?
yeah, I mean, it's all true.
Oh, okay.
And I do apologize, I really should have been nicer about it, but.
I think she was just really.
The good news is, there actually is good news. The guy who used to run Cheshire County government, this guy named Jack Wozeman, a good guy, one of the smartest people in America. State government hired him to be the drug czar. And what that really means is he's on the radio, on TV, at the State House, advocating for treatment, prescription control, and monitoring. Apparently there's a piece of state legislation sponsored by the Tea Party that makes it illegal for us to keep track of particular prescribers. So if there's one paint shop over in Nashua that all they do is write 300 prescriptions for OxyContin a day, which is one of the business models, we're not allowed to know that. So there's some movement. I guess what's the good news is now there's a man with a really good brain thinking about this all the time. And he's sitting in the state capitol, and I can guarantee things are going to change. And people are going to be pissed. And there's going to be screaming, yelling, and jumping up and down. This stuff is going to change. I don't know what.
WOZMAK.
Okay, good guy.
So we don't have to worry about it right now.
Well,
No, that's,
It's impacting the budget.
it's not impacting the local budget. Chris Reitman brought to my attention the town of Massachusetts, Gloucester. Their police chief got so depressed that he became the advocate that Wasmac is becoming. And he convinced his town government to fund treatment, 21 days of treatment for anybody, resident, non-resident, anybody that they picked up was going to get a choice right now. You're going to rehab or you're going to the courthouse. Either way, you're not coming out. And somehow he convinced his town to fund that. And they're sending people as far away as Florida for treatment.
wow,
And it's costing us.
I was gonna say the ticket on that's gonna be huge.
But the short report from the chief, he's been on NPR now, so it's a big deal, is it's less of a problem in his town, the kinds of problems that our neighbors think that they're seeing on a regular basis, as paraphernalia in the streets, break-ins, weird behaviors in the middle of the night, the stuff that makes everyone nervous.
Right.
He says that is much reduced. Because, he said, and that guy from the county said the same thing, he said, after a couple of cycles, addicts don't want to be addicts anymore. They want out. And most of them can't get out by themselves. So, I'm optimistic at the state level that programs will be created and money will be found. I was also very pleased to learn 2 weeks ago that Cheshire County has money and will pay for treatment as the funder of last resort. If they can't find an insurance company to stick this with, they'll be doing treatment as part of their alternative sentencing program. So for young adults, the only piece that we can participate in, and I think what precipitated this dismay last night was arrest more people. Because the arrest is the first, opens the door to rehabilitation and treatment. That's the short answer.
Are we not arresting heroin addicts?
We are making arrests. Certainly, there was great urgency last night to find more police bodies to make more arrests.
Would Roger have a list in his head of who he knows is shooting up?
I don't know.
I mean,
I
don't know any heroin addicts. Anybody else?
Well, I think we're getting a little off.
Yeah,
our
I'm
agenda.
being left, that's what happened. I'm sorry to hijack this meeting, it's my first one.
No, we asked for a report on the select board meeting, and then we really got into
But
it.
now you got one. So the thing about the septic tank is, we're just gonna we're gonna do a homemade repair on the septic tank out in front of the fire station.
Yeah, I think David's just gonna hit,
David's
at
gonna
the top.
David and David are gonna do it.
Right, okay.
David Bailey and David Crosby, town equipment, town personnel. We're keeping the existing tank for 1 more year at least, and changing its internal wiring.
So would that
Big deal.
go under one of the line items?
We'll talk about that.
Money on?
We will talk about that in
Okay.
DPW subcommittee.
Yeah,
I was
so we
thinking
talked,
building maintenance repairs.
we talked about that with David at the beginning, yes, so that's how this all kinda got going again.
Okay. So,
How's the progress in the departments presenting their budgets to you?
I forget where we are, I've missed 2 weeks this month. But the plan is, and if it hasn't been articulated, it should be, the plan is to give each department head or group of departments one pass, make your presentation, then it's time for the selectmen to do their markup. And somehow we need to sit down with you all, either exactly at that moment or after. The first budget that goes out the door is the selectmen's budget, it's not the committee's budget. But we want to make sure there's an opportunity for an art report or commentary or something that's presented in a way that's easy to digest prior to the budget hearing, actually. I don't speak for those other 2 guys, but I certainly think it would be in the voters' best interest to have plenty of ABC representation at the budget hearing. And
As we did last year.
well, especially at the hearing, because that's when the people who really care show up, and generally, it's our obligation to make sure they're well informed.
So, police department has presented a budget. They've discussed it with us, and they've also presented to you.
Yeah.
And has David?
Yes.
David's all set.
Fire is
Fire
done,
department.
ambulance is done-ish.
It's not in here, ambulance yet, but general government is in some parts of it.
Yeah, she was working on it yesterday and today. Her general government isn't San Diego, is not general government. This is her general government.
Oh, ambulance is.
And
So that, just to be clear about how that general government piece is gonna work, Linda's the technocrat, but that's actually the selectmen's budget to present to you and to themselves.
cool, so when I get to question.
You have lots of questions, and generally, I think you're going about getting them answered in the right way, which is starting with staff.
She emailed me, she said.
I approve. Not that you needed my approval, but I think it makes more sense to ask, especially the small question, what does this line item mean
Yeah.
over there, instead of asking the selectmen, because chances are pretty good they don't know.
Well, we're kind of getting into general government anyway, so let's talk about it at subcommittee.
So,
This
well, the rest of the subcommittee doesn't know because I didn't get home in time to, well, I did what I did with the other thing. Anyway, so this is what Linda has, is what she's been working on. This is what our subcommittee thinks, because she does line items like, it starts with river construction, GG wages, Vilas Dam, and goes down to like Warren Brook restoration and Ped Bridge. We put in welfare, executive town reports, and all that other jazz that none of the rest of us are looking at. So I don't know who does the other jazz. Joel, who does the other jazz?
Welfare has its own home.
But who makes up the 2016 request?
Staff.
Oh, okay. So my suggestion to Linda, I had to go from Linda to Keen, and then I didn't have, is I was gonna email her what we lump all together, and say who punches in selectmen's wages, this, that, the other thing, trustee of trust funds, and see if we can hash
And
this
if it
out.
would be more efficient for you to do that in a sit-down with me and with Linda sometime in the middle of the day, I'll make myself available at no charge.
Thank you. So,
Do you want to set that up?
I shall.
The key window to, Linda's life is more complicated than mine, especially at this time of year. So if you can get a midday schedule from her, I will fill it.
Midday, like, you're talking lunch-ish.
No, after 8:30 and before 1:15.
So, midday, noonish, 11, whatever, okay, we'll worry about that later. Moving on. So Linda did, fuel station is listed under general government, and we requested, could we knock that, she said she was talking to David, and really 90% of that is DPW.
Right.
And if we wanted just to, we could somehow do that, but it's kind of like pointless. So it seemed like a good idea, but
Well, it's fuel for fire trucks, police cars,
yeah,
but,
the DPW
But
uses
it's-
90%.
well, it's actually going to be fairly easy to isolate because police cars all use gasoline. DPW puts diesel only, but we do keep slips if somebody's looking for a project, there's one there. Because each piece of equipment has its own.
How about heating fuel for the various buildings?
That's a general government line item. Currently, we buy that in bulk
Yeah.
from the school.
And she explained that, which I forgot.
And it's allocated, you see the slips go by every 2 weeks, it's allocated by building. So we put fuel oil in this building and the fire station and the library and the Hysterical Society and the East Avenue.
Do those allocations get reflected in the budget lines for the various departments?
Budget lines for the total under general government. Would make sense to break it out
And
if there's enough money to make it interesting.
this is what I learned today about watching London County do it. They can take any line, well, general government supplies, and they drill down and get this, rather than, just the one line and what the heck's that for? So, I mean, we can see that Crystal Rock water is $62.59 every so often and all of that. So I don't know how many, if it was all that way. Have you seen
Yeah,
that?
each line you can drill down through and expand it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Maintenance and that stuff.
Well, is it busy work if we ask that those things be assigned to the various departments that use them? And is it really useful, or is it?
If the number's big enough, it's probably useful. If we wanted to be really religiously strict about putting costs where they go, then it would make sense to have DPW oil in the DPW budget and fire department oil in
Right.
the fire department budget. It is busy work. The logical time to make that change would be at the beginning of the next fiscal year or the one after that. I think given the workload in there right now, the committee could recommend, and the selectmen would most likely approve, moving those next fiscal year.
With the
Yeah, and it's,
2017 budget.
Because once they make the change, it discounts the value of looking back. We had this with health insurance. People say, "Oh, this number," explain over and over and over again. How come we, somebody in 2017 is going to say, how come we only spent this much on fuel oil this year? But that's fair. It's a fair question that needs a short answer. It's just like that, okay. But the number has to be big enough. The aggregate number has to be big enough to make it worth the while. It's not more work for the ladies once the change is made, and it's not a tremendous amount of work to do the change. But doing the change mid-year would be a mistake. And trying to get them to make a change like that now is certainly possible. It would be a negotiation.
no.
I approve. I think it's a good idea. But I wouldn't do that, for instance, for building repair or mowing.
Well, and Sam and Juliana and I talked about that under insurance, because insurance is just listed as insurance for everything. We thought, well, it's going to be what it's going to be. Does anybody really care? I mean, why have the Historical Society's insurance?
Well,
I don't, it just doesn't
In
make
terms
sense.
of the bottom line and the budget that the voters vote on, probably isn't that big a deal. But in terms of departments taking responsibility and keeping an eye on what's happening in their budget, it probably is important. Especially, as you say, if it's a big number, which probably fuel is a big number.
Yeah.
And to be fair, we're not particularly systematic about these things. And that's where you guys have imported some discipline into an otherwise rather chaotic process. But we do, for instance, break telephones out that way.
Yeah.
And that's a much smaller number.
And Juliana's looking into the cell phone thing.
So do you all think this is something maybe we should put on the punch list, the 2017 budget?
I personally am not convinced that we want to do that, just because I think the aggregate number is also informational. The minute we have it split by department, then we'll be asking, well, how much do we spend altogether on fuel?
That's true.
So I think what we want is we want different report formats, where the data is in one place, but in this report you can see the aggregate number, and then this other report, you see it separated out. And I think since we have the data, it's possible, but we have to really work on report formats.
But she could probably send you that in Excel, and then you can sort it the same way I do the labor hours.
It's
Yeah,
very-
I'll talk to her. I mean, I was only here for about 45 minutes.
I don't know if she, you get a fuel ticket for every delivery, and it specifies it on the draft.
Right.
I don't know if she codes that in, but all that data is still here somewhere.
Right.
But then, if she doesn't code it in there, then either we need to change the bureaucratic process or add some labor from outside to analyze those tickets. And there's a bunch of them every year. Bunch of them. But it's part of our, it's part of the transparency mantra. This is why we were trying to figure out how much money we spend on the food shop, because that includes propane.
Yeah.
And some percentage of the fuel oil. Kelly did a pretty nice job breaking those numbers out.
So, getting back to septic, is that coming out of general buildings?
Yeah.
General government buildings.
Nice. Because we've been looking at that number, it's not going down fast enough.
Set it anywhere you want.
I'm just saying. Okay. So I think that was it.
Can't be it.
Well, it was a decent first. Yeah.
So
But I've got to include my partners in the subcommittee on this.
Do we know whether Julie got onto the,
I
got through the passwords or whatever to get into the phone records? We don't know. She was,
have not heard from her,
okay.
nor have I heard
I
from
forgot to ask her yesterday, so.
nor have I reached out to them, so.
All right, well, we'll move along. The quarterly report subcommittee.
We don't know, because Sam's not here, he's the kickoff person.
I guess the relevant question there is, any idea when we'll have revenue figures and we'll have figures from the state? I guess we gotta wait another week or so for the figures from the state, right?
I think what you're talking about is DRA's November visitation. We don't have a date for that.
Okay.
We won't get a date for that for another couple of weeks.
Okay.
The process is getting better. They're getting more efficient. They bought a big computer, and it took about 2 years for them to learn how to use it, but I understand how that can be, because their staff is contracted. People retired and not been replaced, basically. So that's a public meeting where the selectmen review the data with a rep, usually with a rep from DRA. It's not clear to me that we'll get that kind of personal assistance anymore. But I would be more than welcome for your participation in that meeting. The biggest thing we have to decide at that moment is, here's the official surplus amount. And here's our balance, and here's what our budget tells us we have to do. What do we do? And that's a political question. We have the authority to do, in the room, we have the selectmen make a decision, but we have the authority to do whatever we want. We can dedicate that 100% of that bucket of money to reduction in the tax rate. There's a very narrow window of time where that decision has to be made.
Right.
It cannot be reversed by the voters in February or March.
So that'll happen in November sometime? Okay. That public hearing that you mentioned?
Yeah,
If they do it?
What has happened historically is that I get a panicked call from the staff and they want to do it in 4 hours. And I said, you know what, we got to post this meeting. They said, okay, how about tomorrow at 8 o'clock? And because they're being driven from behind by the schedule to get the tax bills out.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's being driven by the fiscal year ending on December 31. So it's sort of all stacked up. It'd be much better if those people came to us in September. But the other date I want you to have is Monday the 16th of November. Hasn't been confirmed yet, but I believe that on Monday the 16th during the day, we and all of the town employees who care will be meeting with representatives of health trusts. Now, I stress that that meeting has not been posted, that date has not been confirmed. Basically, we're in the round robin phase. So that date is pretty good with some people, but we have not heard from everyone. It's unclear to me whether a portion of that meeting might be a more private affair between employers and employees. But I absolutely welcome any review questions from this group in that larger public meeting. I have a particular advocacy that I will make, but it's just one selectman, and it's not particularly well informed. Well, we haven't seen the new rates.
Right.
They do exist, we just haven't got our hands on it.
Right. Okay.
So you'll let us know.
Yeah, figure 4 hours notice like that, yeah.
3 hours and 3/4, yeah.
I have another general government question for
Oh,
Joel.
sorry, we're past that.
Well, I'm not really, we're sort of- you know the money sitting on some line item here, for the raises.
Mhm.
Some folks have just gotten that initial raise, waiting for the HR committee, which now wants them to write a job description, go through a review, which is easy. We're coming towards the end of the year. Can you guys just give the people that haven't gotten raises a raise?
We can.
Are you gonna?
I don't know what the other two guys are gonna do. I think there's a general belief, here I goes with a disclaimer, I don't speak for the other two guys, I think there's a general belief that we should spend that money this year, because it was the voters' direct and unambiguous wish. We were of the belief, it's gonna be shorter than you think, we were of the belief that the HR committee would make specific recommendations for specific
That's what I think most people thought.
for specific positions based on their research. They did no such thing. However, they did enough research to say, you know, other towns of this size pay something like this money for this position. I would suggest it be a fairly equitable and straightforward task to at